Hi everyone, I'm Christine, this is my farm, and that is not my dog. Hi everyone, I'm Christine and welcome to the very first episode of our homestead journey. We just moved into this property 2 weeks ago and we have some major plans to become first generation homesteaders, which may sound crazy, but I have a really good reason. And that reason is because I need therapy. I don't know why I'm laughing because it's not really funny, but humor is my coping mechanism, so it is what it is. Now that you have gotten a taste of what you're getting into, I'm a little weird and a little awkward, but I'm brutally honest. So if you are down with that, then away we go. This lifestyle is going to be so different than what we are used to. My husband and I got married, and a year after we were married, we moved overseas and we stayed there for about 10 years. We have lived in 4 different countries together. In fact, none of our children were born in the States. And our last residence overseas was in a megacity of 26 million people. So we were very used to crowded subways, crowded shopping malls, very small apartments, and really good street food. That's the dog. That's not my dog. It's like having a dog, but you don't have to take care of her. She's my neighbor's dog. She comes down to eat out of our trash cans. So yes, we really loved living overseas and exploring cultures and learning languages. But in 2016, I got really sick and I thought I was just indulging too much in street food, but I got so sick I had to go to the doctor, and it turns out it was not the really good spicy tofu on the street. It was ulcerative colitis. So it was like good news and bad news, and we actually had to move back to the States to get everything under control. We tried again to move overseas, this time to a different country with treated drinking water in the main city, and I began having a lot of neurological attacks, a ton of rheumatoid pain, and we came back to the States 7 months after we moved there to start seeking medical advice. And the bizarre thing was, as much pain as I was in, I completely lost mobility. I left Taiwan in a wheelchair because of how dead the nerve was going down my left leg. And we started seeing doctors for everything, and all of them agreed on the same thing, that on paper I was perfectly healthy. And that was really, it should have been good news, but if you struggle with chronic illness and you're undiagnosed, then you understand how frustrating it can be to not have an answer, because without a diagnosis, there is no course of treatment. And if you try treatment, you have no idea if it's going to work or not. Finally, with my last neurologist this past year, I confided in him that I'd actually been to Duke Pain Center twice, which I did not put in the file. He didn't like that. But I said, listen, the thing with going to Duke Pain Center is that they gave me an ACE test. ACE test is an adverse childhood experience test, and I scored 9 out of 10. At Duke is where they told me that doctors are more and more realizing that childhood trauma can manifest itself as chronic illness in your adult life. And I wasn't ready to accept that, because I looked back over my 20s and my early 30s, and I saw a very successful woman. I found a husband that was a good and godly man. We have 4 children now. We lived in a whole bunch of different countries. I learned Mandarin Chinese I even started a business overseas, and so I could not believe in my mind that I was still struggling with the things that I brought with me from childhood, because otherwise, how could I be so successful? But I softened my heart a little bit to the idea, and my last neurologist, after I told him about this ACE score, he held my hand and he said, I know that you're hoping for a diagnosis, but something like ALS or MS or any kind of genetic disease is going to be really hard to treat, and there is no cure. But if this is childhood trauma manifesting itself in chronic illness, you have hope for healing. Because there have been studies showing that our brain has a lot of plasticity to it, and we can rewire neural paths and we can heal. And so finally, I reached the 5th stage of grief, which was acceptance. Acceptance that we probably were not going to live overseas again. Acceptance that I probably was no longer going to be a runner and be able to pursue some of those more hardcore sports that I really enjoyed, like rock climbing and hiking. So with that knowledge, my husband sat me down and he said, let's pursue a different kind of lifestyle. Let's put you in a place where healing is absolutely, definitely, 100% going to happen. And he said, and I think that looks like living on a farm. And I was like, oh, that sounds amazing. I've always loved the idea of farming. I grew up in a farming area, and I was on a chicken farm for a while in one of my foster homes, and I've always ridden horses since I was 5. I even worked on a horse farm when I was a teenager. And I love gardening. I love growing my own vegetables and working with orchards. So that just sounded ideal to me. So he went on a house hunt and he found this place. So we want to invite you on this journey and watch us raise our own livestock and grow our own vegetables and grow our own fruit and live off the land and try all the things like canning, which sounds terrifying to me. But even more than that, I want to be an open book, and I want to be a resource for anybody else that might resonate with someone who is recovering from childhood trauma. And I will tell you this, I have spoken on many stages in my life, and I know that my story resonates with a lot, because unfortunately, there are a large number of people that have experienced the same thing that I did, or something similar. I think grief and trauma unite us more than we want to admit. Depression and anxiety are no respecter of persons. It doesn't matter if you're successful or rich or beautiful, or if you're a good person, it can come knocking and it can steal your life. So we're here to reclaim it and yeah, go on to live our life. I realized a couple years ago, so I think what's really interesting is that even though this journey started mainly for me and for my healing, I have already seen the effects of it spilling over into our children. And I didn't realize until I started to feel the hope warming in my chest again, how much this was affecting my children. And it's something I should have known, because you look back over past generations and you see that abuse is cyclical, and that generational trauma just loves to pass down from mother to child, from grandfather to father to child. And my trauma is not my fault, but healing is my responsibility. And I want my kids to know that even though, yes, I was a hurting and struggling mother, that I did put in the work because they were worth it. I don't want them to struggle with their self-worth as much as I did when I did not have a parent for so long. I want them to see that yes, mommy struggled, but mommy cared enough to heal. And so I'm here to be more emotionally and physical. So I'm here because they need me to be more physically and emotionally available. And when you are stuck in your own head, just fighting depression that makes you want to stay in the bed and never open the blinds, you're just not available to your children, and then they will have a higher and higher ACE score as time goes on. And I'm not okay with that. It stops here. It stops with me. So I am so blessed that I have been the recipient of so much good and godly advice from counselors, therapists, psychiatrists, psychologists, from pastors. But there are a few people who really think that Christians need not indulge in self-help. And to that, I have this to say. Platitudes are not biblical. They are lazy. So saying something like God is in control, is it true? Absolutely. He is in control. But that is like telling a person with a broken leg to take the stairs because it's all going to be okay. Is that a deer? Is it a coyote? Not a bear. What is it? I'm scared. It's not moving, so I think it's a log. We were talking about mental health. Here we are. I mean, look at all that we do to take care of our physical well-being. We should apply that same methodology and doctrine into our mental and emotional and spiritual health. Just like it is completely useless to tell a person, you don't need a cast, all you need to do is trust God, or you don't need open heart surgery, all you need to do is believe God. Our God is a logical, intelligent, and purposeful God. He has put things here on our earth that are healing for our body, but they're also healing for our mind. And this is not a perfect world. It is a very fallen world. And so we will experience darkness. We will experience loss and grief and trauma. But I look around and I see, like, I can already count 2 medicinal plants sitting out in my field. And we look at the science of what nature and animals can do for our mental health. And I praise Him. I praise Him for the gifts that He has given us to help us cope until we are finally in heaven with Him. So, all of our animals that we are going to have are going to be working animals. Some of them are going to provide meat, some will provide byproducts, and some of them will just be therapy animals. And so I can't wait to show you some of the new things. What do you think the fence is for? Coming to us very, very soon. And I thank you for putting up with this incredibly long talking video. Most of our videos are going to be a lot of like showing things and not as much talking about things. But I wanted you to know where we are, where our heart lies, and welcome you on this journey where we are just going to be open and honest, and we are going to talk about the goodness of the Lord. I hope that doesn't scare you off. And with that, I'm cold. So, and there's something in the woods.